or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio, and if I sound particularly excited this morning, it's because I am particularly excited this morning. We've got Mamoswine EX. We haven't had any Mamoswine since Astral Radiance. Astral Radiance is not a recent set. Astral Radiance came out in May 2022. We're talking 2.5 years ago. It's been 2.5 years since we had a Mamoswine. Do you know how long it's been since we had a chase card Mamoswine? An EX, a GX, a Level X, anything along those lines. A Mamoswine that is one of the type of special cards. Do you know how long it's been? Infinity. We've never had one. Yes, I know we have Mamoswine GL. It is the best Mamoswine card we've ever had, and I literally have a copy of this, very nicely framed, that's a lovely person gave me, hanging in my house. But let's not pretend that a random Mamoswine GL was a chase card back in a day where we had level X's and stuff. It wasn't. But now, ladies and gentlemen, now we've got Mamoswine EX, and I'm telling you right now, if you see me at a League Cup, League Challenge, something like that, over the next couple of years, I'm going to be playing Mamoswine. I am going to make it my life's mission to make Mamoswine good. Oh, I'm excited. So what have we got here? Well, we got ourselves a Stage 2 EX with 340 HP. It's ridiculously big. It is the joint biggest Pokemon we've ever had. Seriously, no Pokemon has got a natural HP of more than 340. Also, I know the odds are low of this getting a special illustration rare. I know the odds are against it, because the trainers Pokemon are going to be getting all of those, right? A man can dream, ladies and gentlemen. A man can dream. Oh, by the way, we've also got pre-evolutions here as well. The Swinub lets you search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. And a Piloswine is vanilla, so you can see what that does. But Mamoswine's got an ability whereby once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon and put it into your hand. This is actually a really nice ability. Like, genuinely a really nice ability. And it does stack, and we know it stacks because if it doesn't stack, it says, and it doesn't say, so it does. So, you know what? If nothing else, we've got an ability that can get a new Pokemon every single turn, and we're gonna need it. Because the attack for 2 fighting energy does 120 damage, plus 40 damage for each of your benched Stage 2 Pokemon. Full bench of Stage 2 Pokemon, assuming no Area 0 Underdepth or anything like that. Full bench of Stage 2 Pokemon, 380 damage. Well, that's ridiculous. I just told you Mamoswine's got the joint highest HP of any Pokemon we've ever seen. It's got 340. So 4 bench Stage 2 Pokemon is 160. Add the 180 base is exactly 340. That will KO anything. Or 3 bench Pokemon, you're looking at 300 damage. 2 bench Pokemon, you're looking at 260. 1 bench Pokemon, you're looking at 220. If you can set this up, and that is a big if you can set this up, it is a monster. Grass is just not a typing that's seeing much play at all at the moment, and I've seen nothing from Battle Partners, which is suggesting to me that that's going to change anytime soon. So, we're not really being hit for weakness. Not easily. And we got 340 HP. So this thing is a gigantic tank of a Pokemon. And if you can set up a bunch of Stage 2s on the bench, and I know that's a big if, but if you can, this is going to be one hitting. And that's the thing with Mamoswine. If this sets up, I know it's a big if, but if this sets up, you lose. 340 HP, 1 hit KOing anything you can throw at it. If this sets up, you do not win. So how do we set this up? And the reality is, we do have a bunch of support cards around at the moment that can help. Like, this is a card, and it happens sometimes, where the ace spec of choice just seems like an absolute no-brainer. It's Grand Tree. Grand Tree's great here. You may search your deck for a stage 1 that evolves from one of your basics and put it onto that Pokemon, and then if you evolved it in this way, you can search for a stage 2. Now, when the stadium gets replaced, and it almost certainly will, that's going to be sad, but you'll get one stage 2, and maybe it stays around for another turn or two, and you get a couple more as well. Because this is going to be perfect for getting your stage 2s, that's really, really helpful. Obviously, TM Evolution here becomes a really nice option because that's just, well, it's one of those TMs, right? So TM Evolution is going to be really good for just getting some evolutions out. You get to choose 2 of your bench Pokemon for a single colorless energy, so it can be used by any Pokemon, and then just evolve up into it, and jobs are good. So we got stuff like TM Evolution, we got stuff like Grand Tree, that is going to help out massively here. And I know the 2 energy isn't ideal because fighting is not the best way to accelerate energy, but we got some things we can do here. Crispin as a supporter card will accelerate an energy, and that'll work quite nicely. Or we can combine it with something like Blood Moon Ursaluna or Sandy Shocks, both of which will accelerate energy. Sandy Shocks once per turn when you get down to a certain amount of prizes, and Blood Moon Ursaluna when you play it. And then use that with something like Energy Switch, for instance, which will then mean that you've got energy on the field, you can energy switch it over. I know these aren't perfect solutions, but I'm saying that your first one you should just attach twice. And then you've got Crispin, and then stuff like Blood Moon Ursaluna and Sandy Shocks, you don't actually need like 17 uses of this. 1 or 2 throughout the entire game is going to be enough to actually make sure you've got the energy you need. And then, of course, we need to think about the stage 2s we're playing with this, and you do need pretty much an entire stage 2 deck, right? That's kind of the point. I'm thinking pretty clearly here, Pidgeot. Like, why would this not be Pidgeot? Pidgeot's a stage 2 that once during your turn lets you search for any card. Well, Mamoswine's already searching your Pokemon for the turn, and potentially multiple if you've got multiple Mamoswine. And then Pidgeot's got free retreat, a usable attack, and searches for any card during your turn. Like in the mid-game, use Mamoswine to search for Sandy Shocks, Pidgeot to search for Energy Switch, and then all of a sudden, there's your second energy. Like, this is not that difficult a combination to pull off. As a side note, please do remember that both Sandy Shocks and Blood Moon Ursaluna are not Stage 2 Pokemon, but also please remember you only ever need a maximum of 4 Stage 2s on the bench, because 4 Stage 2s on the bench is 340, which is the most you're ever going to need. So, essentially, you've got 1 floating bench spot, which is available for something like Sandy Shocks, which I think you might need for the energy to keep your Mamoswine rolling. And I do think you need to keep rolling here because something else I've got my eye on, Professor Turo. Let's just heal up our Mamoswine. Let's take a hit, pick it up with Professor Turo, which you know can be searched out by something like your Pidgeot, and then just reset and keep going. Although again, resetting is going to be a little bit of a pain because you can use Rare Candy, but if you use Rare Candy and pick up, then you've lost the Rare Candy. Or you can go through the stage 1, but the problem with going through the stage 1 is every stage 1 sitting on your bench evolving is not a stage 2 doing extra damage. Not going to be relevant in every matchup. There's going to be plenty of matchups where, 2 bench stage 2s, 260, that's fine. 3 bench stage 2s, 300, that's fine. And then that still gives you 2 bench spaces with which to work. But I am saying that there's going to be times where you're playing a Sandy Shocks. Oh, and then you've got some stage 1s on the bench to evolve, and it does get a little bit awkward, I grant you. Your focus needs to be on stage 2 Pokemon sitting on the bench rolling. Good news is, although it will take a couple of turns to get this going, it's actually not going to be the end of the world, because there's not going to be many matchups in which you have to have 4 stage 2s out nice and quickly. There are going to be plenty of matchups where Mamoswine and 1 or 2 on the bench will do fine. But there are some really fun stage 2s you can play around with here. Togekiss that lets you flip a coin to take an extra prize has got to be near the top of your list. And again, because you're playing Mamoswine that searches out Pokemon and Pidgeot that searches out any card, some of these stage 2s are not going to be as difficult to get into play as you might think they're going to be. We could use stuff like Quaquavel, which lets you put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck and then draw until you got 5 cards in your hand, giving you an extra draw engine here on top of your Pidgeot. That would absolutely be an option. You can't play all of these. You're gonna have to choose, okay? But I'm telling you that there are a bunch of different things you can do here to start supporting yourself. Maybe you play the Infernape from Twilight Masquerade, that once during your turn lets you attach an extra basic fighting, and fire, but you're probably not playing that, from your hand to your Pokemon. Because that'll be the second energy you need on Mamoswine here. There are a bunch of different stage 2s that we can be playing around with. For me, honestly, it's Pidgeot. That's the most important one here. You need to have your Pidgeot. And then after that, Togekiss, if you can make it work, or something else for consistency, like an Infernape or a Quaquaval, something like that. My point here is, we've got a lot of options. Actually, one more I need to shout out here is Garganacl. Garganacl's really fun. Again, it's a stage 2, but it has to be. Came around in Paradox Rift, and once during your turn, you can attach a basic fighting energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. Does not have to be benched, and then heal 30 from them. So that seems like it could be kind of fun now, doesn't it? I'm just saying, we've got options here. We could play something to accelerate energy. You could play something to draw extra cards. I think you've got to go Pidgeot. And maybe it's just Pidgeot and Mamoswine. Maybe they're the only 2 that are going to work. I'm just telling you there are a bunch of other options. Obviously, I'm giving this a hands down, flat out, no question, 5 Wassies. That was never in doubt. This is my deck for the next 2 or 3 years. Although when Pidgeot rotates in a year, that is going to suck. But I'm telling you right now, yes, I know it's awkward. Yes, I know it demands multiple stage 2s, blah, blah, blah. What we've got here is a 340 HP Pokemon that can hit up to, and you'll never need to, but can hit up to 380 with a weakness which is very uncommon. I know it's going to be hard to get rolling, but when Mamoswine sets up, you lose. And I adore this. Oh, actually, right, couple other ideas for Mamoswine while we're here. First of all, yes, I know we've got Tatsugiri. No, I don't think Tatsugiri's actually a good option. But we do have Tatsugiri here that, of course, lets you look at the top 10 cards of your deck and bench any Pokemon you find there, which can be a bunch of stage 2s. You could go hyper-aggressive with Tatsugiri, and there you would have to use stuff like Crispin and Sparkling Crystal, so that you could basically get a couple uses of Tatsugiri and then use Mamoswine, but a whole bunch of other stage 2s as well, and just go really aggressive into Tatsugiri and your stage 2s. But firstly, Tatsugiri doesn't use fighting energy, so you'd have to use fire, water, darkness for Tatsugiri, plus then you're fighting for Mamoswine. And secondly, it's actually one of those where you're just crossing your fingers. I don't like it, but I'm just going to mention it as a technically, I suppose this could be an option, but please, whatever you do, don't actually do it. And also Vivian, which I am taking a little more seriously as an option, because your Spupa from Scarlet and Violet base does have adaptive evolution. And while we're here, while we're talking about it, it is worth pointing out that your Scatterbug also has adaptive evolution. And we do have the Vivian from Surging Sparks that's got Evo Powder, which is actually TM Evolution, but better, because it's all your bench Pokemon, not just 2 of them. And I feel like this might be a little bit too awkward and sound fun in theory and not actually work. But it's another option which I did need to show you. You might have noticed I'm very excited about this Mamoswine. I will. My vow to you, ladies and gentlemen, I will make Mamoswine work. Because seriously, look at the damage output. Look at the HP. There is going to be a way to make this busted. I am going to find it. For now, give me your ideas. Give me your opinions. Tell me what you think might work in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Jelena Renji, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout-out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching an extremely excited PTCG Radio.